Straight on picture.
Oh, watch this. The Zoom comes out, it's gonna be so good. First day, it's portrait day. It's very excited.
Call the meeting to order, please. Roll call, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Legislator Hathaway.
Here.
Legislator Burkler. Here. Legislator Mosher.
Here.
Legislator Gilbert.
Here.
Legislator Chartrand.
Here.
Legislator Morahan.
Here.
Legislator Leviker.
Here.
Legislator Osborne.
Here.
Legislator Nellenbach.
Here.
And Legislator Dahlhoff.
Here. Please stand for the invitation and the pledge. Ian, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet here in peace, to work through the legislative agenda for the county. We lift in prayer to you, our community, especially the children and school staff who are returning to their regular routines today. We pray for their safety and wellness in this coming year. Bless us with grace, humility, and empathy this evening. Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The August 2nd board meeting minutes have been distributed. If there's no amendments, they stand approved. Report of the Finance and Rules Committee for Rule 6. Cassandra, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance and Rules Committee has met and they recommend to waive rules to act upon late resolutions.
Need a motion? Lisa, second by Andrea. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We have a public hearing. I'm going to open that now on the CDBG project 636C DPF 9-21. That's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Lewis County LMI broadband connection project. So is there anyone here that would like to comment on that other than Cassie?
No takers.
You're up.
I just wanted to give everybody an update on our LMI, Lewis County Broadband Connections projects that we received funding from CDBG for. In September 2021, Lewis County was awarded $747,790 to provide fixed wireless broadband services to 3 LMI communities in Lewis County: the town of Lionsdale, Village of Port Leyden, and Census Tract 9502, better known as the town of Diana. After 12 months of coordinated efforts between the Development Authority of the North Country, Lewis County Planning and Community Development, Lewis County Building and Codes, Lewis County 911 Services, Tectonic Engineering, Hudson Valley Wireless, and the Lewis County Manager, Brian Shea, we are close to optimizing the wireless service. And incredibly, we have come in under budget and have thus requested an extension through April 2023 to utilize the balance of the funds to directly benefit LMI households. While this project has had its share of roadblocks and challenges, the team at the helm has utilized the CDBG funds awarded to provide the very best service and opportunities to users within reach of this service. So we're excited to get the ball rolling and to launch that service in the coming weeks. We're just working through the technical glitches in the background, but you should be hearing more from us on that shortly.
How much were you under budget?
I don't want to disclose that until we get that extension, and then we can better utilize those funds. So I'm just excited for you all to see what we can utilize those funds for, and I just want to get that extension in hand before we get too excited. Okay.
I'll let you out.
All right.
Anyone else have any comments on the project? We'll leave that open for the time being and move to privilege of the floor. We have a note here that says Bill Hathaway would like to make a few comments.
State your address.
Can I talk as long as Ryan does?
No. That's up to you. You think you can handle it?
No. I just wanted to mention that something interesting is happening on September 10th at the Harrisville Central School. prior to the annual soccer kickoff tournament of 6 teams, including South Louis actually, the soccer field will be dedicated to Coach Rick Bear. Rick has coached soccer for the last 42 years and counting. Not surprisingly, he's considered the coach with the most wins in all of Section 10. He also coached baseball and basketball at times and taught for 36 years. He did retire from the school in 2010, but he continues to give back as a judge in the town of Pickford. It's kind of a sidelight, but it's interesting to note that they used to have 2 judges, and the 2 previous judges there, John Hall, served 40 years, and Jim Manchester served 39 years. So he's kind of filling some big shoes, I guess. And I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Our area is really appreciative of all that Rick has done and continues to do, mentoring our young people, and I just wanted to acknowledge him today. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Would anyone else like the privilege of the floor?
I could talk again.
Well, you can talk hardly at all. Presentations of petitions, communications, and notices, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolutions were received by Orleans County proposing the repeal or amendment of election laws insofar as they adversely affect smaller counties, and support of Senate Bill S. 9509 to eliminate the Farm Laborers Wage Board created through the Farm Workers Fair Labor Practices Act. A resolution from Seneca County was received opposing New York State legislation S. 51001 and A. 41001 as being an unconstitutional attack on rights of law-abiding citizens by restricting legally authorized concealed carry gun permits and banning concealed carry in public. Mr. Scott Tyler, landowner in Lewis County, wrote to the board stating his opposition to the Rails to Trails project, citing the negative impact on a key economic foundation, which is agriculture. He is also opposed to the use of eminent domain to seize the property, but to also using valuable taxpayer dollars to turn them into recreational trails. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Report of county officers and departments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Legislators received the monthly treasurer's report, monthly highway and solid waste audit reports. They also received a report from senior code official Gord Daly on a 1955 mobile home located at 8419 Stony Lake Truck Road in the town of Watson, which cites the property as unsafe, unfit for human occupancy, and therefore condemned. Brian Mooney, Director of Weights and Measures, submitted the June, July, and August 2022 monthly reports, which have been placed on file with the clerk of the board. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Reports of standing committees. Tom, would you start us off with finance and rules?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a motion, I'll make a motion to move to authorize real property tax director Candy Aiken to continue to pay the $3,800 renewal cost for tax collection system out of her account line on behalf of each participating town and village.
Moved by Tom. Do I have a second? Dick? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries.
And that's all I have at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Tom? If not, we'll move on to Ian with General Services Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 5 motions this evening. First, I move to authorize Building and Grounds Supervisor Matt O'Connor to create and send out an RFP for the renovation of the jail floor.
Moved by Ian. Do I have a second? Josh? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries.
The next 2 change orders, the next 2 motions are both change orders. I'll refer everybody to the change in scope review forms in front of you. And I'll note, our standing rules require, I think, any change order in excess of $20,000 needs to go before the full board. One of these is for an additional amount of money to be expended, and the other is for a credit. Brian, did you want to just hit those?
Sure. So the first one that we need to talk about is PCO number 10, so 101, by Betty and Crin. That is the foundation drainage at cold storage. So you may recall, and those folks that have been kind of going to some of the regular construction meetings bi-weekly will know for certain that we needed to get some additional permission from the Department of Transportation in order to utilize that driveway that we have been using for years. Part of that permit process with the DOT is they're requiring that we handle some more of the surface drainage on the site and to kind of take that away from their ditch. So this is a project to install additional drainage that we weren't planning to install. So when we bid out the project, we obviously didn't have to bid this. So it's $22,460 and is to put in a drain which will be behind the cold storage building at the highway site. So that's the first one. Questions, thoughts on that? Okay.
Looks right at me.
I didn't. The second is actually a credit, and it's PCO 007, also from Betty and Crane. And this is for a credit of $146,959, and it's for DSS roof changes. CNS had designed a new roof insulation for the building, but unfortunately the specific insulation that they had put in the design that Betty and Crane had bid is having significant supply chain issues. Nobody can get their hands on it. So what they've done, working with CNS and Jim and Nick, is Betty and Crane is taking a look at the existing insulation that we have on the roof. There's a few spots that we're going to do some heat checks to make sure that's truly in good shape, but for the most part, the feeling is that the insulation we have is in good shape, and so we won't need to replace the insulation. So this is a credit for $146,959 because Betty and Crane is not going to be replacing the insulation that we had planned on them doing. So both of these change orders are going to be actually processed in terms of the allowance for the job. So we're deducting from the contingency, not the allowance. I don't know, Chip, what am I saying?
The credit will be a change order deduct reducing the contract amount, and the add will be reduced from the allowance that the contractors carried in their bids. So they're both change orders. One of them is just basically allowing the allowance funds to pay for that.
Thank you. So with that, I move to accept change order number 1 for an additional $22,460 to change the foundation drainage at the highway cold storage building due to a requirement from the DOT driveway permit, and request that the clerk of the board reduce this into a resolution for the record.
Moved by Ian, second by Josh. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries.
I move to accept change order number 2 for a credit of $146,959 due to being able to reuse most of the DSS roof insulation, which has been tested and is found to be in good shape, instead of the new insulation, which is no longer available, and request that the clerk of the board reduce this into a resolution for the record.
Moved by Ian, second by Bill.
I like deducts.
Any discussion?
Do we know what the is that gonna change the lifespan of the roof insulation, or? Any idea?
The membrane that covers the roof is ready to get warranty now.
Okay.
I would like to make one more comment.
Sure.
The change order for the drainage will actually be a little less than that, because the way that we put the bid documents together, contractors are not allowed overhead profit. They price it with the overhead profit, pay for it through an allowance, they do not get that, so that will be reduced to
21,400, something like that.
It would actually be 21,400, which is my dollars. So they do not get the overhead profit. And they get paid for it through an allowance.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries.
Next, I move to authorize Phase 2 of the Agricultural Sustainability Study with Court Consulting Incorporated at an amount not to exceed $60,000 and request that the clerk of the board reduce this into a resolution for the record.
Moved by Ian, second by Andrea. Discussion.
Were we gonna receive something back on that, Ryan?
So, yes, and
Oh, yeah, it was the co-op, did they?
so
they,
you have received information back verbally through me and Michelle Ledoux and Clinton Cooperative. We did attend the Lavo Producers Board meeting the night of our committee meeting, and they were given a similar presentation from Court Consulting that you guys have received, and they're ready to, they're willing to keep moving forward with some of the plan. So we like to move forward with phase 2 with them. And then additionally, at some point, we need to decide, if they'd like some more specific engineering services or potentially a project manager of some sorts. That could be another role that the county could play to try to keep things moving. So, but Andrea has been involved in that committee, and I think it's surprisingly kept its momentum over the last year, and I think it's a good thing. So.
My only question is, I think the number is 6,000, not 63,000.
6,000 is not going to get us very much
I
off.
read 60, I think.
This was phase 1. This is in addition to phase 1, he's talking about.
No, that's a different thing, John.
Yeah.
That's the data.
Right, under phase 1.
Right.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
My final motion, I move to authorize Purchasing Director Brian Hanno to create and send out an RFQ for engineering services related to the agricultural sustainability project.
Moved by Ian, seconded by Lisa. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Ian? Move to Lisa with Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I gave Ian my motion allotment for tonight, so I do not have any.
Bill is proud. Good. Any questions for Lisa? We'll move to Dick, the board's rep on the hospital board.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. The employee of the month for July is Joanna Lane. And I'd like to read the write-up a little bit about how she was written up. My husband and I would like to nominate this employee for her compassion and commitment to her job and patients. My husband had a recent ailment that required him to be seen. The employee went above and beyond to make sure he knew what steps he needed to take for his upcoming visit. Any questions he had, she answered with clarity and compassion. After the visit, he needed to be referred to another hospital. She was quick to take care of this referral, providing constant communication with both of us. She also followed up multiple times after the referral had been completed to make sure we didn't need any further assistance. Her skills do not end with her patient interactions. She's always pleasant, and always willing to help with any questions, concerns, or coworkers may have. We're fortunate to have this employee on our team. And we get that a lot from our employee recognition programs. And unfortunately, I had someone talk to me a little bit about county employees and stuff that it's bothered me, so I'll mention it tonight. The thought process was that our county employees don't work very hard. So that's why I read this, because we get every one of these in, and our county employees are as hard working as any employee I know. And I've worked with a lot of different places, so that's my take on that part of it, and thank you for that, listening. Okay, then we were very lucky to have a welcome from Bea Grouse. She's the president of Hades, and she presented to the Board of Managers at the hospital. I passed out the slide presentation to that. If you have any questions later on, Jerry would be glad to fill in those questions that you might have. Joanne Ruba Hobart, Executive Director of the Hospital Foundation, updated the group on the capital campaign. They're going to be reaching out. Their goal is to raise around $2 million if they can. They've got a $250,000 campaign cost. It costs money to get this donations done. I went through it with a church that I belong to, and I thought, my God, that's a lot of money. But they were only gonna try to get about 400, and they got that plus. They almost paid back the cost of the campaign, so it's gonna be well worth it. So expect to see some advertising in the future, and those of us here, maybe a few phone calls to help donate towards this worthy project. Okay, on another note, we had a loss of $1,142,708 for the month of July. And year-to-date loss is $1,619,626 as opposed to $368,59. We had lower admissions on the inpatient side for the month of July. And all our patients are screened and calibrated is the wrong word, but given a number for how we get reimbursed. And we had a lot of observations and stuff like that doesn't pay the same revenue as the others. So that accounted for some of our loss at that time. The ED continues to be very busy. We are now seeing very close to 1,000 visits a month, and that's happening month after month at this time. Okay. And then a couple more and I'll be done. We're replacing the radiological CT scanner. It's been down about 25% of the time over the last 3 months. The cost of a new scanner is going to be about $850,000. It's going to take us up to 6 months to implement and install it. So we're proceeding forward with that. We also have a lab analyzer that's 8 years old and just not capable of running the redundancy that we need with 2 lines. So we're going to also have a new lab analyzer, and that's going to run about $350,000. We've got those in our budget, so we're all set to go with that. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jerry Kerr if there's any other questions.
Are there any questions? Dave gave a pretty comprehensive report of the entire meeting. So unless you have some specific questions, I would let Mr.
Jerry,
Schreiner's report stand.
I listened to the Haney presentation on not Zoom, but whatever that was. And, you know, it's kind of unfortunate that she did a great job, but she had to talk about politics instead of talking about helping the people, you know, and how the elections would affect the future. And I thought that was kind of unfortunate that politics enter into it so much versus just helping people.
I appreciate that perspective. I think when you have a trade group, and the Hospital Association of New York State is a trade group representing all of healthcare, and as they work actively with the federal delegation and the state delegation and the executive branch, politics does enter into the equation from the perspective of understanding which party has control. And so it was really meant from that perspective rather than, you know, good or bad. It's more a recognition of what is, and then really understanding, as she represents the voice of healthcare, and we were fortunate, it's the first time the leadership of Haney's has ever come to Lewis County. And to be able to lead a generative discussion with the Board of Managers in advance of the Haney's Trustees Forum, which will be later this month, I think it was a good thing. Because there was this overview, as you know, of what's happening at the state level and at the federal level, and really some of the storm clouds that remain before us. While at the same time, I know many members of our community and citizens of the state think COVID is past us. We are not in the post-COVID period. We are still in the active COVID period. In fact, we have admissions today at the hospital, residents at the nursing home and staff, both at the nursing home and hospital, out on COVID protocols. So it's not what it was in early 2020. but it is still very much a part of our lives and impacting all that we do. So I think from that perspective, it was very helpful. So the reflections on politics was really to understand, we have a midterm election coming up. How will that impact how we work with the delegation to, create, the resources flowing to Lewis County?
And she was good about explaining all that, she really was, but it's just kind of unfortunate that we all aren't working for the common good. And, they need to work together.
Understood.
Chairman, if I could just add one thing. The public health for Lewis County are reporting weekly our COVID numbers, but it's not in the paper like it used to be, and it's not on television news like it used to be. So if you want to see what's happening with COVID, go into Lewis County Public Health, click on COVID, and it'll show you. Some weeks we've had 2, 3, some weeks we've had 20. So what Jerry's speaking to is, you get a false sense of security out of this when you don't hear about it from 2 or 3 different sources. So that information is available if anybody wants it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, we'll move to report of the project manager, Jim and Nick Garrido.
Again, I'd like to thank the board for that report. We're entering our 5th or 6th month, depending on when you want to have a start date. Everything's going real well. We have a great group of contractors, there's teamwork effort, and I'd like to kind of piggyback on the comment that Dick made. County employees, Tim and Matt, they have full-time jobs as it is. They're always there to help us with a question in our delivery for the county, which is good. Janet shows up to the project meetings. She's there. We have legislators that show up. And what this does, from a contractor's perspective, it demonstrates that people in Lewis County care about their project. I work in other projects, see an owner, manage the job, report to people, and that's it. So I think it definitely helps in what we're trying to accomplish here, in the delivery of a successful project for the county. And no fighting, we're all getting along. And I think that is a very positive thing. With that, typically we have a better project. I'll let Nick discuss the
Schedule wise, the wash bay facility, the mezzanine has gone in. We're almost done with that. Interior fit out will be shortly this remainder of the month. Cold storage, the Green Engineering Building is tentative to arrive early November is the date we're being given. Hopefully, the highway garage is not too far behind. All of the site utilities and stormwater management system drainage is all going in for as we speak, for the remainder of the month over at the highway facility, and the new electrical services should be starting sometime this month over there as well. Up at DSS, the building is inside is entirely gutted. Besides one electrical panel that they're using for temporary power, they're actually beginning to remove the concrete for plumbing roughing. Hopefully we'll start at the end of this week. So we're already starting to put that DSS back together. And then the maintenance garage is also coming along and framing the interior walls. Should be starting very shortly. And then the DMV BOE job is out to bid. Bidding at the end of the month. Thank you.
The other thing I want to add is our entire project are the electrical panels. And I've reached out to some other electrical contractors. I asked them how they're dealing with it, and they're basically, when they show up, we'll put them in. And we're not counting on dates. It's a real moving target. There's not a lot that can be done with that, unfortunately. you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to county manager report, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, our time has been spent largely on, projects with Jim and Nick, construction, obviously, being first and foremost. The move to Glenfield. I feel that folks are finally a little more settled in at Glenfield. We had a really nice open house. Each of the departments really did a very nice job. And by departments, I mean not just DSS as a whole, but each of the subgroups in DSS, temporary assistance, child support, adult protective services, they all had some snacks and opened up their doors and had a very welcoming atmosphere for, it was mostly, I would say, other human service partners in the community that came through. And it was a good attendance and it was a nice event. And I think as we move into fall and things cool down outside, it'll be make an even better environment for the folks at DSS and all folks for the aging have been very flexible. We're very grateful for their flexibility and ingenuity throughout this move. So thank you to them. Eric and I have been working hard on the budget. At this point, we have met with every single department. So we're through phase one. Phase one is when we meet with everybody. Phase two is kind of when we re-meet with some of the bigger departments and iron some things out. And we will have 3 things to discuss with the board at the committee meeting in September. The first will be personnel recommendations. The second is the capital budget. And the third is we need to talk about the future of the Veterans Department. So those 3 items will be presented at the next committee meeting. Last thing I'd like to say, just kind of building off what Phil had mentioned about the Haney's presentation. I think it's a pretty big deal when you've got the president of a statewide association coming to our community. Haney's, it was great to listen to them. They reminded me a lot of our group, NISAC, right? And it's important that, Jerry is on the board now and is connected to those decisions that are happening in Albany. And we know all too well that sometimes those decisions, our communities and the rural communities seem that our perspective isn't always taken into consideration. So it is important to be active in those agencies that are working on our behalf. So I wanted to thank Jerry for bringing that group and their leadership to Lewis County. I thought it was an honor to have him here. And, hopefully I can continue to get involved with NISAC and we can, as a county, hopefully one day have that leadership here with us. So, but I think it's all good stuff. So thank you. That's my report.
Questions? Okay, we'll move to the county treasurer report. Eric, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Very limited things to add to my written report. I think I would just highlight our tax foreclosure auction on August 24th. I think you all saw the emails I sent to summarize that. Very successful. The online auction is obviously, I think, changed the interest level that we get. So that's been a good thing to see in the second attempt with that. And hopefully it'll continue in the future. Results are still up in the air. We've got a couple properties that I'm not sure if the initial bidder will finalize the process, finalize their purchase. So the dollars could change a little bit, but should be in the same ballpark that the total that we've seen. That is all I have. If there's any questions.
Eric, if they don't finalize, what happens? Does it go back out again sometime?
Well, no, not back out, but the auction company will go back to the prior 1 or 2 bidders, high bidders, and see if those bidders might be interested in finalizing the sale at their bid price. So if that is not successful, then that property does not get sold and comes back to us for a future auction.
Thank you.
Okay, at the public hearing, is there anyone here who would like to comment on the CDBG project? If not, we will close that public hearing and move to the report of the Financial Rules Committee for Rule 7, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance and Rules Committee reports that they have examined the claims presented for payment in the total amount of $4,194,980.85 and recommend that they be audited and allowed for the amounts claimed.
Someone would like to make a motion? Phil, second by Lisa. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries. Okay, resolutions. What resolutions do we need to pull?
So far, I have Resolution 192. I have Resolution 209 and Resolution 211.
Anyone have any additional?
Can you pull number 212, please?
212. Anyone else? Okay, can I have a motion to pass the rest of them as a packet? Dick, second by Lisa. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The slate carries. So we're on 192.
Yes, Resolution number 192-2022 is auditing and allowing claims in the amount of $4,194,980.85.
Moved by Lisa, second by Dick. Any discussion? This is a roll call.
Legislator Osborne,
Yes.
Legislator Chartran,
Yes.
Legislator Mellenbach,
Yes.
Legislator Burkler,
Yes.
Legislator Leviker,
Yes.
Legislator Mosher, Legislator Morahan,
Yes.
Legislator Gilbert,
Yes.
Legislator Hathaway,
Yes.
Legislator Dahlhoff,
Yes. 209.
This is a resolution to appropriate funds in the amount of $1 million to provide additional funding for broadband expansion projects.
Someone like to move it? Dick. Second? Lisa, any discussion?
Yes, Chairman. I asked for that to be pulled just for clarity for some people out there. And Cassie's still here. When you did your presentation, you mentioned either Lionsdale or Lions Falls, Fort Lyden and Diana. Are those the only areas that are going to be eligible for broadband expansion?
No.
No, okay.
Those are the areas that are eligible for the broadband expansion under the CDBG grant funding. And under that funding, we were able to affix wireless antennas to the county-owned Lionsdale and Diana towers. And we are hooking the Village of Fort Lyden up with free public Wi-Fi. So that's just one of our projects. And you should be seeing outreach from the service provider Hudson Valley Wireless in the coming weeks and months. But we have several other projects. The fiber expansion project that you all approved several months ago with Spectrum, and the NBRC, the Northport Regional Commission funded project in the Copenhagen area. The DANK/NIPA project in the town of Diana area. Oh goodness, what other ones do we have coming in here? The fixed or the free Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi projects around all of the communities. Those are going in right now. So there's a lot of projects going on, but if anybody has any questions, if you have any constituents asking you questions about, I'm having trouble getting a hold of this provider, do I have access to broadband? Certainly call our office. We have the resources to connect them with the answers that they need.
Okay, can you give us your number so this matches for the folks at home can?
315-376-5919.
Okay, thank you, Cassie.
I'll notify Sue to expect a lot of traffic now.
That's all I've got.
It'll be great to get some numbers on the free public Wi-Fi to see what kind of popularity is getting down in the villages. We have a way, I assume there's a way of tracking all of that, isn't there?
Yes, so they'll be providing us with access to the tracking mechanisms, and we also will have a survey. Typically, when you enter a free Wi-Fi access point, it prompts you to enter your email address and to agree to terms of use. That is the same case for this project. Instead of having you enter an email address, we have you enter a survey question or answer a survey question on behalf of the legislators. So if any of the legislators have any survey questions that they would like, maybe answers to from their constituents, please send them my way. We can update that on a daily basis if you'd like.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution number 211-2022. This is a resolution authorizing one-time retention incentive payment to eligible current employees.
Moved by Lisa, second by Ian. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I asked for this to be pulled just for the board's point of information. The HR director has been in communication with the presidents of the 3 bargaining units who are affected by this resolution. Those presidents have indicated to the HR director their verbal consent to this one-time payment. So if the board authorizes the payment tonight, I have prepared a draft MOU for the union presidents and the county to sign off on, because that is required under the collective bargaining agreements. So if the board adopts it, we will circulate those MOUs, and it is only upon receipt of those signed MOUs that the treasurer's office would then make the payments.
Any other comments?
I'd like to just comment, I don't necessarily agree with it. I did hear from some constituents that they are dead set against this. Their comments were that county employees have a pretty good job, their pay is good, their benefits are good, and the taxpayers are suffering. Comment being that we should cut taxes. Well, like I explained to them, we could take this amount of money and cut taxes, and you wouldn't hardly notice it. Like I say, I just wanted to pass it along. One thing that was brought up in the discussions, and maybe it makes a little bit of sense, should it be capped at $45,000 salary? Anybody that gets over 45,000 would not get the bonus over the 45,000. It probably wouldn't amount to a hill of beans, but if it made somebody happy, I don't know. But I just thought I would throw that out. The few comments I got, they were dead set against it. That's all.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution number 212-2022. This is a resolution authorizing one-time funding to Lewis County towns and villages as a result of fuel cost increases.
Moved by Lisa, second by Phil. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead. Thomas.
Again, I heard from people that, I know the other towns seem to think it was a great thing. One of mine made the comment that they've got enough money from pandemic money, they don't need this. It's a waste of money.
Which one do those?
Send it back.
You have property in it.
Have them call Cassie, I'm sure she can give them some ideas on how to spend that money.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I want to note on the record my support for this, but I will recuse from the allocation due to conflict of interest.
Okay.
Josh is in the same boat.
Mr. Chairman, I'll recuse as well.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So please show Josh and Ian abstaining, and the motion carries. And that's the end of the resolution, right? No late resolutions. Do we have any other business anyone would like to bring up?
Nope. I'm good.
Okay. No other business, motion to adjourn. Lisa, Dick, all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.